So let me start today with this. Does anyone listening remember Marc Trestman? I'm sure many Bears fans right now are shaking their heads. I know, but bear with me here. Marc Trestman in 2 years here in Chicago went 8-8 and 5-11. Many fans didn't like the hiring to begin with. He really didn't have much NFL experience. All of his success came in the CFL, and no one really knew how that would transfer to the real game. In his first year, the Bears did contend for the division championship. They ended up losing in a one-game, winner-takes-all Week 17 matchup against Green Bay. The next year, of course, the Bears go 5-11. Marc Trestman loses control of the locker room, which had a lot of personalities. Martellus Bennett, Brandon Marshall. And he was fired outright, right away. No one second-guessed it. No one questioned it. He was gone. And that's fine. There was enough there to make a case, you could argue. 5-11, 8-8, had no control, didn't really produce anything. I get it. I understand it. Here's something, though, that I find very interesting, and this ties to Matt Nagy today. Believe it or not, Marc Trestman and Matt Nagy are pretty similar. They're related in a way. Let me read you this stat. I did this one myself. Under Marc Trestman, the Bears averaged 354.45 yards per game, and he was fired, of course, after 2 years. To date, under Matt Nagy, the Bears average only 310.6 yards per game. So under Marc Trestman, an offensive guru, the Bears are putting up 350 yards per game. Under Matt Nagy, another supposed offensive guru, the Bears are at 310. The response I got on Twitter was this from a Bears fan. Nagy is also a better leader and a better head coach. Trestman couldn't control the locker room. Nagy's offense sucks, but he's a good leader, and the players believe in him. Well, not so fast, based on Sunday's game. The Bears were up 13-3 at one point. They lose to the Saints, a game in which the Bears actually had an advantage. It was the Saints' first outdoor game all year. That should have played to the Bears' advantage. They know this climate. They know the winds of Soldier Field. It should have been an easy win. You're facing a quarterback who can't throw the ball more than 10 yards. I mean, what are we doing here? How did the Bears lose? That's the question. But something did happen yesterday in that game that definitely drew comparisons to Marc Trestman. Javon Wims. I don't want to get into the whole story, but basically, a guy in the Saints pulled off his mouthpiece, off his helmet. Wims retaliated by pulling off his mouthpiece and punching him twice, 3 times, starting a whole brawl. He was ejected from the game. Now, the Bears today have announced that he'll be suspended for 2 games, but that's it. He hasn't been cut yet. No more discipline from the team. And it looks like after 2 games, he'll be back. That example right there, that showed us how Matt Nagy is losing this team. Last week when I put out that stat, that person was right to come out and say, you know what? Nagy still has control here. That's a big difference. Yeah, maybe so. Not anymore. Not anymore. Matt Nagy no longer has control of this team, and Sunday proved it. You got a player of yours just sucker punching twice an opposing player, causing a brawl. You've got penalties galore, no discipline on the field, which signifies control. If Matt Nagy actually controlled this team, there'd be discipline. There wouldn't be senseless penalties. There wouldn't be really a quarterback controversy. Oh yeah, in case you didn't know, the controversy's back. I know no one wants to hear it. I know it's so old. Nick Foles should be there. Well, Really? After that game, you still think Foles is good enough to be the starter now? Really? Did we watch the same game? I know numerically, it looks like Foles had a hell of a game, right? Passer rating above 100, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. That pick was atrocious. Not something Trubisky would have done. And late in the game, in overtime, it was a 4th down situation. The Bears needed to convert. Foles didn't move. Trubisky would have run. He would have easily gotten the 1st down if he was in. But as we all know, Foles, pocket passer, doesn't leave the pocket and doesn't pick up the 1st down, and the Bears lose that game. They had a chance, but they blew it. So again, I say, is it crazy to think that Marc Trestman and Matt Nagy are somewhat similar? Marc Trestman's a better offensive guy. That's proven. I have numbers here to prove that. And I'll say this in his defense. I know he lost the locker room. I know he wasn't the best coach, had no experience. But if he had the defense that the Bears have today, there is no question that they would have been a playoff team, to me. No question. The defense they had was mangled, was much worse than it was in 2010 when the Bears made it to the NFC Championship game. That defense was gone. What the Bears had in 2012, I don't know what that was. If Marc Trestman had a functioning defense, maybe they would have won a couple of games. Maybe they would have made it to the playoffs and even further. We don't know. We never will. The point is, though, everybody likes to put Matt Nagy on this pedestal when you compare the two. Not even close. Marc Trestman was horrible. Did you look at the numbers? I know memories are clouding judgments here. Believe you me, it pains me to say it. I wasn't a Marc Trestman fan. I didn't think he could have done anything spectacular, significant for the franchise. But if we compare numbers here, Marc Trestman's about the same, if not better, than Matt Nagy. Never thought I'd say that. It is 2020, but seriously. 354 yards per game under Marc Trestman, the Bears' offense. That's pretty good. For a guy who was labeled as an offensive guru, he lived up to that expectation, to his credit. Matt Nagy, 310.6 in his tenure. Now, granted, the Bears did have some more weapons under Trestman, right? Brandon Marshall, obvious weapon. Martellus Bennett, great tight end, receiving tight end, offensive tight end. Yes, Matt Forte. Jay Cutler. But there's a big difference. That's a big difference between those two numbers. Under Marc Trestman, the Bears were gaining 44 more yards per game than Matt Nagy. Nagy has Allen Robinson. He has similar quarterback play. Jay Cutler wasn't special. Nick Foles, definitely not. He's got a decent running back in David Montgomery. The issue is the offensive line. We said it on this show last week. Maybe if Matt Nagy stopped calling plays, the Bears could salvage their season. Totally on the table. Could have happened. But we continue to see this team get worse and worse and worse. No end in sight. I don't know why. There are ways to make this better. Trade deadline's on Tuesday. Why not make a move? Get a lineman or two. Get another receiver. We said it, there are two easy fixes to this team. And if no one wants to listen, well then, you're going to have the same old on the field. See, everyone's happy when the Bears win ugly. No one calls for Foles to be benched. No one really says much about Matt Nagy, but when they lose ugly, now it's a problem. now we're seeing what we've been seeing. The defense is great. It's not their fault they're being overworked by the offense. Offense is never on the field. The defense always is. There's so much pressure put onto them each and every game. Newsflash, you can't be depending on the defense to score you points. You can't be depending on a scoop and score or a pick six every single game. You have to do something on offense. And you can't put that kind of pressure on the defense each and every game. It's ridiculous. You're not going to win anything if you're dependent on your defense to score. That's what the Bears are right now. They may not admit it, but that's the truth. Look at the team. Look at how they've won games. They're dependent on the defense to score and to defend. Doesn't work that way. It does not work that way. And each and every week as it goes by, it seems to me like Matt Nagy's losing this team. I get hate on Twitter for suggesting that Trestman and Nagy are similar. It's not that far-fetched anymore. Under Marc Trestman, the Bears were a better offensive unit. I'll argue. If they had today's defense on those teams, they would have been a Super Bowl contender, first of all. Secondly, the big criticism. Marc Trestman couldn't handle the locker room. Yeah? You think Matt Nagy's doing a better job? Quarterback controversy, Javon Wims doing whatever he was doing in the game. The Bears not cutting him, just a 2-game suspension. This is ridiculous. This is the stuff that got Marc Trestman fired. The only reason Matt Nagy still has a job is because somehow, thanks to the defense, the Bears are winning. If the Bears had this caliber of defense in 2012, 2013, who knows? Marc Trestman might still be here. The numbers don't lie. I know your memory will cloud it, but the numbers don't lie. The Bears were a better offensive unit under Marc Trestman. I know, it's shocking. Matt Nagy's an offensive guru. What's going on? The Bears have no weapons, and they have the wrong guy calling the plays. We've said that before. We'll say it again. And if no one is willing to make an adjustment, you'll continue to see this team get worse and worse. The main criticism of Marc Trestman near the very end of his tenure was that he lost the locker room. I would argue today the same could be said for Matt Nagy. The same thing could be said for Matt Nagy. These are very similar people. One of them got the axe after 2 years. One of them's on thin ice right now. And the only reason Matt Nagy is still here is thanks to his record. If it was 500, if it was losing, he'd be gone immediately. Matt Nagy every day should be thanking the defense for giving him a job, which is ironic because the guy's not even a defensive guru. He's offensive-minded. But that's what needs to be happening right now. And I don't care how much hate this gets. I encourage you to look at the numbers. Take an in-depth look. Trestman, Nagy, very similar. If you don't agree, then obviously your memory is clouding what really happened. And I know it's a tough thing. We remember Marc Trestman, we immediately think mediocre, horrible signing, the team didn't perform under him. All of that is true, yes. But numerically, total offensive output, Trestman's better than Nagy. And I'll contend that if Trestman had today's defense, he'd be a winning coach. End of story. Look, the Bears, it's so easy to fix this team. So easy. Matt Nagy has to stop calling plays, and they need some more weapons offensively. That's it. That's all they need. It's that simple. But they choose to do neither of those two things, so it's not surprising to me that they lost on Sunday. They're probably going to lose this weekend against Tennessee. Not a surprise. These are simple fixes. And each and every week that nothing is done, Matt Nagy will continue to lose this team. They looked so undisciplined on Sunday. So many unnecessary penalties. Javon Wims acting like an idiot. Let's call it like it is. That can't be happening. This doesn't look like a Super Bowl contender right now. It looks like the origins of a dumpster fire. And unless legitimate changes are made, this will be a full-on dumpster fire in a couple of weeks. And by then, there's nothing you could do to save it. More to come here on Sports Talk Chicago. My interview with Bob Nightingale comes up next, so stay tuned. Hey, do you want to make some money this weekend? Easy way for you to do it. Go to sportstalkchicago.com/cash. sportstalkchicago.com/cash. Illinois residents only, 21 plus. You can get $250 free to bet on any game you want. The Bears, Tennessee this weekend. Any other NFL game. College football too. It's that easy. All you have to do is go to sportstalkchicago.com/cash. sportstalkchicago.com/cash. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.